I think this is MozFest. Maybe some people will join in online, as it is an online festival.
We hope so.
We hope so. There's always
maybe the corner of the festival was just too obscure for those online people to join. I don't know, but we have got potentially 50 people registered for this session online.
Yeah.
So where are they is my next question.
They may be just making their ways. I'm just checking for any emails, any last minute messages going like, the instruction you gave us is wrong. How do we actually join? Or something like that.
Yeah, I can believe that could happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the same.
No, there's nothing. No one wants to know.
No one wants to know. Well, should we just start this anyway?
Yeah, I think we can start.
We've
got people in the studio for
We've got people. We've got Chris making a cup of tea. We've got our first participant online that isn't Alex. Second participant online. So let's give you. Actually, tell us where you're joining from, just to increase the drama a little bit. Villani, come in.
Hey.
Hey.
To Planet Earth.
Hello. We can see you. We can hear you.
How's it going?
I'm in peace.
Good. So we are based in London, right now in East London to be even more specific. Alex, where are you tuning in from?
I'm tuning in from Dorking in Surrey, which is southeast England.
Sorry, I think Alex deserves actual stop button.
Yeah.
A round of applause.
Yeah.
And Villani, where are you joining from?
From glorious Johannesburg, all the way in South Africa. The greatest country in the world.
Way.
I was saying that the other day, but nobody really bought it, you know.
Why?
We were doing a Talkaoke session in Stratford, which is a part of East London, and somebody said, I'm from the greatest country in Africa. And I said, I can't believe you're from South Africa.
But they didn't.
Was like,
Oh!
He was like...
They were from Nigeria, no?
Yeah, they were actually from Nigeria, yeah. Anyway, what can you do? Anyway, let's just get a round of names. Here in the studio I'm Mikey. Who else have we got? Tell us your name.
I'm Margot.
And
Chris.
And
Ellie. Justine.
And we've heard from Villani already. Who else have we got online?
Alex,
welcome. Let me just give you another round of applause. So let's just kick this off. We're hoping that a few more people are going to jump onto this. Because as we said before, we have got 50 people registered, but we're wondering where they are. Maybe they're, I don't know. Maybe they're watching the boss of TikTok give his, whatever submission to Congress, whatever it is. Anyway.
No, but actually about TikTok, I think what I didn't realise. Oh, actually, just to say, this is Talkaoke. I don't know if everybody knows how it works, and it is a pop-up talk show, so it kind of works in a way that. I guess people on the outside, virtually and in person, decide on what we want to talk about. And Mikey just spins around, passes the mic around, presses the sound effects, and that's it really. We've got one more person joining online. That's Jessica. Alright, so we're just kind of getting cracking with this. The name of the session is Talkaoke is Decolonising Net Culture. And it's not a program about fish. Somebody said, is it about fishing? Is it about nets? It's not.
Yeah. Or is it about net culture as opposed to gross culture as well?
Yeah, that was another kind of controversy, some kind of a question there. Welcome, Brink. But actually the session is on decolonising net culture, meaning internet culture, as we are part of MozFest.
Yes.
And the way Talkaoke works, which is what you tuned into now. This is Talkaoke, I'm going to say it again. It's a pop-up talk show. It's not a panel discussion, it's a pop-up talk show, which means people can just take a conversation in whatever direction they want. There's somebody there.
I mean, we're hoping, come in.
We don't know who these people are. They could be absolutely just random people. Hello, how's it going?
Are you here for the Talkaoke?
No, I'm always passed from here. He was curious to listen to the podcast.
Come and join.
I need to go to the Lidl to buy the grocery because I need to go. Iftar, today is our first day of Ramadan.
Okay, so it's the first day of Ramadan. Ramadan Mubarak.
Thank
you go
so much.
to Lidl.
Yeah.
But we are going live to the world right now.
Oh, really?
So just put your face in front of the camera just so you can.
Look, I have a conjunctivitis.
Okay. Well, then just go this way on.
It's okay. The camera can't catch
Go
it.
profile on to the camera. Just so. There we go. Anyway, that's what happens at Talkaoke. What we're saying is a little bit of a flow. It may not be about fish, but there is that kind of fluidity to the whole conversation, like a school of fish. And we've just had a random person that's coming off the street. Although I think, on a different day, it's the first day of Ramadan, on a different day, maybe we could have persuaded them to join it as well. Anyway, does anyone want to have a stab at what it really means, decolonising net culture? Does anyone want to just kick us off with that one? Fulani, come and help us out here.
Oh, no, I was going to suggest the last person to join. But I think it's Brink. Brink, I see Brink, I think. Brink was the last. Hi, Brink.
Hello?
Brink, yeah. Hi, I don't know how you feel about that. Do you want to?
Do you know Brink?
Okay. No, I don't.
Okay, so you want to just ask Brink. That might be a little bit too much of a big challenge to, go straight in there.
Okay,
we've done the same thing, but we've kind of started off with a theme, decolonise net culture. Someone needs to just help. It doesn't have to be the final definition; it's the initial definition.
No, but I think that the title kind of implies that internet is a colonial kind of domain.
Yeah.
And I just wonder to what extent people thought that was true. Is it true, or does it just simply depend on where you're tuning in from? Because All
right. Well, I'm going to do the classic turn the mirror. Do you believe that the internet is a colonial domain?
I think there's a very good chance it is. I'm no expert. I'm an artist, and internet is just something that I kind of use in my life, but I don't study the internet. But I would imagine that the types of things that I'm seeing and the types of information and images that's being shared, maybe it's done in that kind of through that kind of colonial funnel or something like that. Because when we were doing a project with our colleagues in Uganda, there was, we didn't know as much about about their art scene as they did about our art scene here in the UK, which made me think perhaps there's something up with what kind of information people get around the world.
So the flow of information goes outwards from places like London to places like Uganda. You mentioned that. Anyone on this side want to say that? Is the internet a colonial thing? Ellie, you're jumping in straight. Let me give you a round of applause for that. You're jumping straight in.
I think you can definitely detect the fact that a lot of the internet that's coming from colonial countries is a product of a colonial mindset, and that lives on in all of us. We all have to. So,
but is it about the mindset, or is it about the architecture of the internet?
Okay, well, the mindset affects the content, definitely, doesn't it? Society.
Yeah. So we're still
the architecture of it, and then we have to start thinking about kind of capitalism, don't we? And how that is also a product of the colonial mindset.
Okay, so we're in capitalism.
Arguably.
Okay.
I'm going on a tangent. Take it away.
Okay, so it's quite big. We're colonial mindset. We've got possibly a colonial architecture, but definitely a capitalist system. Are these all parts of the colonial? I don't know. Does anyone online want to come in on this one? Do you feel like the internet is a colonial space?
Yeah. I mean, okay, I'll come in and be the kind of mug, because until this discussion, I didn't think it was, and maybe that's my fault. So I'm kind of here to listen. The only thing I would say is that I have found it quite hard to strike up relationships with people in other countries. So an example I can give is I run a little Facebook group for people who want to know how to make these like flat, lie, horizontal recumbent bikes, and we make them out of wood.
Right.
And through that, I've managed to meet people in Ukraine and Russia, and we have people joining the group from other parts of the world, and I'm always delighted to see people come in, and I would always be really grateful for contributions from everywhere. But the group is largely dominated by UK and US people, and I don't know whether that's just because that's how the group was formed in the UK and other people have come in after. So I suppose, I'm open to hearing that it does need decolonising. don't know how people have made it colonial by perhaps without intending to. I don't know.
Okay, there's something there from, what's that saying?
So Brink is saying multitasking at work, study, stocking printer paper across the room from laptop, but agreed that the internet does have colonial attributes thanks to its history. Echoing Margot's response a bit, I am one of those many US perspectives. So multitasking is a very kind of American productivity example that brings.
Yeah, but you're very super productive because that would take me like half an hour to type that.
Yes, they are full sentences and
not only have you typed that all up, but you've also restocked the printer at the same time.
No, that's really
I mean, maybe that is why America dominates, because they can do things like that.
Is it because of the productivity? I mean, is productivity a colonial thing that you have to kind of keep on doing lots of things? I just think it's just disgust it.
No, anything on this side? Just you?
I'm not kind of warmed up yet with it, but yes, I would associate.
I mean, do you feel like that? We are more productive in the sense of economics. I watched a video on it last night, but is that because we're just doing too much stuff here?
No, we've got a culture and a drive. It's all more, isn't it? Do better, more. And I'm just sitting here trying to think, so, really down to rudimentary basics of kind of colonialism, like really like kind of land grab colonialism and how that might kind of translate in terms of a metaphor.
Yeah.
And definitely the driver, the productivity driver is part of that land grab mentality, isn't it?
Yeah, so I mean, is that just part of our mindset that we just need to do more? We've got a couple of new participants. So I'll just recap where we are so far. Just explain this is a free-form talk show. Hello. So basically, we're just trying to unpick this thing. Is the internet a colonial space? Most people say yes, but then the question is, in what way? Is it about our headspace that's colonial? There's another thing there from Brink.
Brink is tuning in from America, multitasking to the max, and on the subject of productivity, it's such a part of our society in the US, which is where Brink is joining from, that it's become a part of our survival.
Yeah. So you've got to be that productive to survive.
Oh, we've got someone.
We've got. I think Jessica, you wanted to say something.
I was just going to say, I mean, if we're asking the question of this productivity question, I think there's so many pockets on the internet that you could pick apart, and there's lots of, pockets, for example, creating community, like this right now, for example. But if we're talking about a platform like Instagram and how the algorithms really favor these influencers who are constantly pushing this lifestyle that's unattainable almost, that's pushing capital, that's pushing capitalistic values. So then that is definitely a colonial or capitalist. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe it's interesting to think about the difference between a colonial and a capitalist.
Yeah, I mean, can you be capitalist without being colonial? Are those two things part of the same kind of, the other side of the same coin, so to speak? What do people think about that? We've got a few new people. We've got a new person in the studio, so let's just get your name. What's your name? Louise. We've got Chris, we've got Ellie, we've got Justin, we've got Margot, and I'm Mikey. At the moment, we're trying to unpick this kind of statement, decolonising net culture. Is the internet a colonial space? Most people say yes. But how? Is it just down to capitalism? Is it down to our huge productivity? I'm going to say in the UK and the US, but I feel like the US is even more productive than us because we have Brink, who was restocking the printer and typing at the same time and following the conversation, which I think is kind of incredible. But does that mean there's just too much going on? Is it just more? That's where we are right now. But Margot, you got something to say?
I just want to also shout out the visualizations, the background behind us. We've got Laura kind of working on those kind of visual representations of what we're talking about, and it says all you need is less. And something that you said, Jess, made me think like, are we just kind of so stuck in this paradigm of capitalism and colonialism that is just part of our lifestyle? That is just us. And also, Villani, you've got your hand up. I can see.
Okay, Villani, you come in. What do you think about this? And just remind us.
Thank you.
We've got more people online now,
Yes.
so tell us where you're coming in from.
Yes, of course. For the rest of the people who didn't see me earlier or didn't hear from me earlier, I'm from Johannesburg. And I actually enjoyed this discussion. It's so, it's really great and quite stimulating. I am envious of the people in the studio because it looks like so much fun there. I digress. I think we can all agree on the fact that yes, it is there is heavily colonized how the internet kind of works right now. Because just one very interesting fact about the internet, but I don't think it has to do with the internet itself in terms of what the internet is, right? Like basically a way of communicating and connecting people. I think it's one of the participants as well, the discussion mentioned earlier, I just don't remember who, but they said they mentioned a very interesting point around algorithms. And I think that's what creates most of these biases and things that drive our attention and puts us in these bubbles, in these information bubbles that reinforce themselves, in these echo chambers that separate us. At its most basic, even one of the founders, one of the people of the internet, one of the scientists, the engineers that worked with IBM when we started out, in their while it was based in Nigeria, is Nigerian, but you don't get to supply information like that. And also, like you say, most of the information sort of comes from more like European or the West, and then it's outward facing into the rest of the content of the world. And we all can agree that, of course, all the other countries, there's always stuff happening. Maybe it's not only stuff that's only on progress or innovation or anything that's only happening in the West. It's just a matter of, I feel the focus should be more by how then we break down. Because we are aware that we're not getting the full scope of what the rest of the world is doing. Yeah. How then do we make sure that we sort of give an equal slice of attention to the rest of the world? But of course, the algorithms are against us.
Yeah, the algorithms are against us. That is definitely a good way to sum that up. But a really great question. How do we actually get to see what's happening in the rest of the world? Is it just about making more efforts, fighting against the algorithms? Justin, I can see you got your hand up over there. Just also tell us where you're coming in from, because it's nice just to know.
I put it on the chats there.
Yeah. Canada, okay.
So I find this question a little bit confusing because generally colonialism is talked about in terms of geography and one nation occupying, enslaving, and extracting value out of another nation. And I don't feel like it's that straightforward as far as nations go, and the roots of the internet were, a socially funded program, and nations, welcome the adoption of the internet for social good. But if you think about it more in terms of attention and the information as space, we can very much see that people are capitalizing upon our need for socializing and capitalizing on our attention. So I would argue in that sense it is colonial.
Yeah, so you're saying in that sense of the place of the colonialism is about the attention rather than the architecture of the internet. It's about who gets to have the attention.
Yes, and how the relationships are mediated.
Okay, that's a really good point. Where do we want to go from this? We've got a new face at the table over here. Just give us a name quickly.
My name's Ian.
Ian, we've got Justine, we've got Ellie, we've got Larice, we've got Chris, we've got Margot here in the studio, and my name's Mikey. We've got a few new people that have joined us. So the whole point of this is Talkaoke is a pop-up talk show, so we can go really wherever you want to take it. So we can explore some of these avenues, some of the questions, some really good questions that have been asked. How do we go against the algorithms from Villani, and then this point about is the colonialization about colonizing our attention? So these are some of the things that have come. But people, this is not about sitting and watching. This is about participating. We don't know the answer, so come in on this. Everybody here on the call. Jess, you've got something to say. So do you want to come in at this point?
Yeah, I was just going to add to what Justin was saying, like that it's about attention, but also our data, right? So they keep our attention by collecting more data on us all the time, constantly. So yeah, they're monetizing that. And when I say they, I guess it is corporations, right? These big corporations like Facebook and Amazon, basically just, so I guess, yeah, there's been some really interesting, I came across some interesting work, someone named, maybe some people are familiar with, I'll put his name in the chat, Yaron Lanier. So he's a theorist working in, I think, computer engineering and stuff like that for a long time. Basically, I think also the founder of VR technology, but he suggests basically that people should take ownership and agency over their own data, and that like these subscription models that like we pay for should be reversed, that like corporations should be paying people for their data. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in there, this like attention and data and how that all interacts.
I mean, what do other people think about that? Is selling our data going to make us less of a kind of, let's say, slave to social media, or a slave to the internet platforms? What do people think about that? Is it about owning our data? I'm going to favour those people who have not said anything yet. So Alex, you wanted to come in. But let me go to Larice as well, because you're in the studio, so we're live here, coming from East London. Come on.
I thought that was an interesting concept, kind of selling your data to companies. I was just wondering how would that work? That was my question.
Yeah, I mean, would you like to sell your data to corporations?
I mean, right now they're getting it for free. So if I could make some money off of it, then I mean,
why not? Why not?
Why not?
But would it make you then almost like a kind of almost like a wage slave to those data companies, because you would be desperate to sell as much data as possible to make the cash?
It depends. How much are they offering?
Yeah, okay. We need somebody from a data company here to see. I mean, is there anyone actually willing to buy the data? I mean, I don't know. Is anyone going to buy this data, this Talkaoke chat data? There's only one way to find out. We'll get back to you on that one. See if we've, made any sales. Alex, you wanted to say something as well.
I mean, my only concern about selling the data is how do you price it fairly? Are you worth twice as much as me, Mikey? And it becomes very awkward at that point.
It's a bit of a data auction, isn't it? I mean, and how bad are you going to feel if no one wants to buy your data?
How damning is that? The price of your data has dropped to zero.
Yeah.
Usually it's very difficult.
I mean, do we really want to buy and sell our data? Do we feel, anyone out there feel that their data is top quality, high quality data that's worth a lot?
My data.
Yeah, you've got good data?
I've got good data,
okay. All right, okay, so...
I've actually got shares in your data.
Okay.
I'm making a fortune.
Okay, all right, okay. So will we then end up investing in each other's data? Can we buy and sell each other's data? Will that be the kind of chat up line of the future? So do you want to go for a date? Do you want...
swap some data.
Do you want to swap some data? Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's a new kind of, 2024 big chat upline. I don't know, but I was just wondering, like, when we're talking about the internet, I mean, I think social media is a big part of it, but it's not just the only part of the kind of the data, like how data shows itself. And I think social media is just something that we probably all have got some kind of views about it. People are on Facebook, or I don't know, maybe like really ancient people are on Facebook, like I'm still on Facebook, but you know, maybe people are kind of going for different other platforms. I think TikTok is now in trouble. I think MozFest has been talking about it a lot. And maybe it's about inventing new platforms, but what about all the data which isn't social media? I'm just wondering
what is that?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what it is, because my world is just like social data, social media, internet, that's it.
Okay, but there must be other data. Chris, you might...
I was just going to come back to that original colonial point. It probably has, everything probably has come from that originally, but there's a lot of the internet that is good and seems very sort of democratic, the way you can get any questions answered, get help, get support. It feels like a lot of areas are very democratic and open, but it shouldn't just be reduced to social media.
Okay, all right, so there's a democratic open side. Do people agree with that? And let's have some other people that haven't said anything yet. Come on, come into the conversation. We want to know your point of view. You know, don't worry, it won't devalue your data saying anything on this talk show. Come and tell us what, even just say, hi, I'm dialing in from whatever part of the world. That's enough. But we definitely want you to contribute to this conversation.
Actually, that's a good point. I'm just curious where people are genuinely tuning in from, and whether decolonizing, just decolonization as a subject of the internet or something else, is that big subject in other countries. I'm originally from Poland. I don't think it's a huge subject there, but then there's this other aspect of colonization in Eastern Europe, and I think Ukraine is a good example of it, where the colonial power is Russia. So it's just like I think it's just depending on where you're tuning in from and what's the kind of like general conversation where you are. So that's why my question to people: where you're from? Is the decolonization even a subject in your country?
Okay. So I mean, you can put it in the chat as well if you don't. There may even be things in the chat. I can't see because the text is too small.
No,
it's just some stuff.
Some
suggestions, but put it in on the chat if you're not ready to come full on the mic into this talk show. We've got a hand up over here, yes, and that is Ryan. Hello,
hey,
Ryan.
Everybody. Yeah, hey. I'm in upstate New York in the United States, and for
Sorry, I was going to give you an air horn, but the sound effects machine seems to have broken, so...
oh no!
So just imagine a virtual, like a meep, meep. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. You're coming in from anyway. Not to interrupt your flow. Sorry, Ryan. You just carry on.
Yeah. Well, I think around here, like decolonization, the term is really connected to the colonial history of the area, and also the understanding of there's oftentimes talk of decolonizing our mind and understanding the identities that we all have that are rooted in colonization here in the United States, so whiteness, indigenous identities. And so I also, when I think about it in this context, I think about it definitely as kind of taking away context also, like there's a kind of colonization that happens to all things when it becomes really commercialized, and the original context of it, the sort of soul of it, feels like it's gone, and it becomes something that's just a commodity.
I mean, I don't know if you were there for the very beginning, because we were sort of like asking what is colonialization and what is capitalism. Can you have one without the other? I mean, is this just about capitalism, or is there a colonial element to that as well, this kind of soul-sucking?
Well, and I feel like I experience, that definitely sounds all relevant. And sorry, I'm joining in a little late as well, so.
No, don't worry about it, it's all part of the flow.
I feel like on one side, like I don't use social media, so sometimes I feel really isolated, and I wonder what the heck is happening, and why do people know about why am I always hearing about events after the fact? Like, why doesn't somebody just call me and say, hey, there's a concert, let's go out? But they assume that they've done their due diligence and told everybody where to meet, but they but then I find out there's actually a lot of other people like me who also aren't using it and are feeling the same way. And what felt like an intact community has become really scattered. And I feel like, there's a big tension there for me.
What's your reason?
Culture.
Ryan, what's your reason to not participate in social media?
It just feels like icky and like bombarded constantly with urgency and gimmicks, and I just don't like it. So I should say I do participate in online community. I'm here. I'm in a number of different online communities that are very like intentional and more calm places for me. And it also might just be the way my mind works. But I just find social media too overwhelming. I'm too worried that if I say anything at all, that I'm not saying the right thing. I'm not talking about the most relevant, urgent topic that everybody else is talking about, and it just the pressure of that has pushed me away from it.
Well, you're definitely in the right place with Talkaoke, because we just go with the flow and we just go wherever we want to go. We don't care about things like that. There's so many different elements we could take out of that. Do we want to talk about, as mentioned earlier on as well, is the colonisation? Is it all about the colonisation of the mind? You said that, Ellie, didn't you, at the very beginning? We could go down that way, or we could talk about, the social media to be in it or not to be in it, almost the kind of, have we been recolonised by social media? There's so many different elements. It's up to you where you want to take this, but Valani, you had a point, didn't you?
I just agree with what Ryan was saying there. Actually, with the social media, I think we're in a weird point now where it's like, if something on social media, and I see this every day, in social media, we don't have any nuance. Either something is the best ever, or it's the worst ever, and it's like, okay, what, what's every time someone says something or talks about it, it's always has to be either the best or the worst. They use any nuance,
there's no middle ground
with social media or middle ground. Talking about things. This hype train that is incessant. It's exhausting. But I think we are also. I think there are also, just additionally to add. I think the way I'm really intrigued by where the conversation is going now, because we did start off from the point of talking about decolonization and the internet, which of course Africa has a long history of decolonization. It's a very hot topic. It's something that's we actively engage with here in this side of the world. But I feel it's also an organic route that we're taking when we go to social media, because there's the social media, as some of the participants here are mentioning, is actually the window to the internet now, right? So some people, if you don't check your social media, you actually don't know, like what Ryan mentioned, you actually don't know what's going on, where everyone's going to be and things like that, which shouldn't be the case. There should be other avenues, I think, but it's sort of like the entry point into this internet. So it's very important now more than ever to actually talk about social media and where it's heading.
Yeah, does it mean these guys that run these platforms are the gatekeepers? Is that part of that kind of power structure that we're elucidating here? That these guys are the gatekeepers into, what is hot and what is not, by, I don't know, tweaking their algorithms or whatever? Is that how it's working? What do other people think? And
there's also a question on the chat from Robo. Can you explain simply what you mean by the term decolonization? XXX.
No,
so I think it's with love. Would anybody have a go at explaining that in simple words? Because I could just run with that just to as a jumping off.
Go on, you.
No, because
what do you? That's the thing. We put it out there at the beginning, and then people said, "Well, it could be this, it could be that," and
No, because I just looked up the kind of general definition. I googled. I used big data to top up my knowledge. And decolonization is a process by which colonies become independent of the colonizing country.
Yeah.
So decolonization was gradual and peaceful for some British colonies, largely settled by expatriates.
Expats.
No,
expatriates.
Yeah. But violent for others, where native rebellions were energized by nationalism. And, we're talking about decolonization, but this is a very kind of concrete definition. This is actually pertaining specifically to countries, to land, and to brutal fight. So, is it fair to compare what we're having on the internet to that? That's my question.
Well, let's have a show of hands to people who thinks it is pretty much as fair. It's a fair. And that Larissa, I don't know if you can see that online, has done a kind of maybe not. We've got a question over here as well from Barbara, but let's go over to you, Justine, and then we'll come to Barbara.
I don't have anything specific to say, but I think it is fair. I think it goes back to who's controlling it all, you know, and actually, and it actually goes back to the question of capitalism, isn't it? That it's not, you know, somebody, I think it was Justin, talked about the kind of the original, you know, movement towards the net, where it was kind of free. I don't know the terminology. I'm not digitally kind of literate necessarily, but you know, a lot of these platforms were free and they've become privatised, and that's what I mean. Privatisation is a form of colonisation.
It's a kind of land grab.
It's a kind of land grab again, isn't it? Yeah. And I think, and all of these kind of like you were saying, the architectures, they're all part of that. You know, they're all part of that land grab, whether it's our attention or otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. Ellie, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I do, because I do kind of get what they're saying. I know the guy from Canada was saying as well. Yeah. Sorry, I can't remember your name about it being like the physical land grab, and like, I understand what you're saying, but I think there's a certain mindset that enables one human being to kill another, rob them, and take their land. Like, there has to be a whole cultural sort of narrative that makes that alright. You know, even if you go back to the Crusades, they were like, good Christians, thou shalt not kill, going and killing. So there was some narrative, wasn't there? And that extends to today, into capitalist exploitation of the internet. Because I like what you said as well. There are really nice examples. The internet was set up by Tim, what's his face, set it free for everybody, you know what I mean? There's loads of like positives about it. And now you've got people like with no sort of, like algorithms are a whole discussion that I don't know enough about, but I know that the fellow in South Africa brought that up. I appreciate that, because I think the people writing the algorithms have still got the remnants of that mindset that enabled people to rob and kill, like our ancestors, my ancestors. Yeah. So it's still in our society. It's the way that history is taught in our schools, it's in our education.
Are we being robbed and killed on the internet?
No, we're not being robbed and killed, but we are being mercilessly exploited at times. Right, and it's that mindset that enabled, that amorality that enabled people to rob, kill and steal back in the day. Yeah. And more recently, it's still there, be that about data or algorithm, I don't know, maybe.
I'll give you a drop the mic. Alex, I'll come to you, but Barbara, you wanted to say something?
So I think we're speaking about land a lot, and I think we think of the internet as this like immaterial and not geographical phenomenon, but it draws from the computational capacity of the earth, like its energy and mineral resources, like silicon and so many other minerals, and they're mostly pulled from Africa. Yeah. So I think it is very much continuing the colonial narrative, also on geographical and material scale.
So all those server farms are all made up of metals and minerals taken mostly from Africa. You're getting a round of applause there. So how about that? So in that sense, it is still a land grab. It's more of a kind of, you know, technology grab to a certain extent. I mean, what do other people think about that? Margaret?
I'm just going to read from Margarita because I know she's in a noisy environment. So this is to you, Robo, but also to everyone else. Yeah, Robo. We know who you are. But Margarita says, decolonisation in simplest words, stopping thinking about history, culture, whatever, from the point of view of people belonging to former colonisers. Start doing the opposite, using different perspectives of former colonies. And then brings us about using social media back 10 years ago to establish a community. Now it's just not working anymore. It's just not.
So it is. I mean, I get the feeling that the kind of, you know, this kind of optimism about the internet has kind of really diminished and waned, and people are not as super excited about its freedom its potential for freedom, should I say, and its potential for liberation. That people are not that excited about that anymore. But you know, let's also look at the word decolonisation as from that last point that you read out. What is the actual process where we can change some of these things? Okay, it's a great statement to make that people it's a good statement. people robbed and killed to get where we are today. But is there anything we can do about that to reverse this system? Can we use these possibilities of the internet to actually do something about all of the things we're all kvetching about? You say you hope so, yeah. But I mean, Chris?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if it's a start, but those kind of big data companies kind of starting to recognise that behind every sort of click and impression there is like there's us, there's human beings behind behind that, in homes, in households, logging on, using them, and I think trying to get data companies to recognise the kind of the human. The human side behind the clicks and the data, because I imagine if you're looking at
I mean, is it possible to humanise people like the CEOs of these big social media platforms, no names mentioned? Is it possible to humanise these people or to humanise the system?
I don't see why not, but I think the interesting in the Google story and how originally it was very kind of democratic, open, and then it just got all about the kind of the ads and the clicks and the commercialisation of it. It was almost like they almost had no choice but to go down that route to survive and make it viable. So I think I don't know.
So you're saying that Google wanted to be nice, but they ended up having to be
maybe.
Okay. I mean, what do other people out there on this so-called internet say about this? Alex, you got your hand up. Do you want to come in on this?
Yeah, I'm scared to, but I just wanted to say one difference that I think there is between, say, something like Facebook and colonisation, is that I remember when Facebook did create value. So Facebook sort of started when I was at university, and if you wanted to organise a pub crawl, and I was very against joining Facebook, it was quite hard to organise a pub crawl, and then suddenly there were these Facebook events, and you could just post something and get 40 people arrive on a pub crawl, and it just made that stuff so much easier. So in that way, I do think they did create a product, and they did create something that wasn't there before. So it's like, they extended the land out into the sea.
Just for those non-English people, what is a pub crawl?
Sorry, a pub crawl is where you find a street. So I was in London, and you go and have a pint in every single street in that. Maybe people don't do this in other countries, but so say there are 12 pubs, you will end up drinking 12 pints and falling over by the end of the night when you get down the bottom of the street. So that was what I did in my youth. I organised those things, and Facebook made that a lot easier. So I don't know that everything they do, although I do think they are sort of robbing people's social relationships now, I think they did create a useful tool.
So you've got huge gratitude because of these pub crawls.
Facebook. Many memories are created.
Great, good memories, okay, so it's not all bad. Justin, you wanted to come in on this?
Yeah, I posted I mentioned in the chats platform cooperatives as like a method to democratize social platforms. I was in a course, Platform Cooperatives Now, in 2021 about this. Some really interesting ideas. I really struggle to feel optimistic about it as far as the uphill battle that it is, but I encourage you to take a look at, especially maybe the second link there.
Okay. I mean, is this, and for you, this is like an example of a more freer and more kind of pure online interaction compared to what we've been talking about before.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about data sovereignty that intersects with this as well. I
mean, how do we get more people to sort of interact in this way as opposed to, let's say the more, following Kim Kardashian on Instagram? I don't follow Kim Kardashian, no.
How do you know this?
I've been asked to follow, but I've never been asked to follow anything, that's not from America on Instagram. Anyway, where are we going to go with this conversation? Do we want to have a change of hosts? Do we want to decolonise the middle of the table? Anyone want to jump in the middle? No, maybe not. Maybe I don't know. But that is an option as well. If anyone wants to try this, obviously this only applies to people that are in the studio. Those people that are online, it's not as easy. It's not as easy as it looks either, by the way, doing this job. Anyway, where are we going to go with this conversation? Do we want to talk about Is it, in a way, and what I'm taking from you, Justin, is it's actually, what you're saying is down to us to actually form, not be so lazy and actually form the connections and use the internet in the right way, in a decolonising way. Is it, I mean...
That, some of the work that's been done in the Fediverse, I think, is moving towards that direction.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's bring some other people. There's some people who have not said anything yet on this. Talkaoke is a show where we like you to actually say your bit as well. It doesn't, and a lot of people have said, I'm not an expert on algorithms, I'm not an expert on data. This is not the point of this conversation. The point is just for a bunch of people to have a chat. It doesn't matter what you're an expert on. You're an expert on you, that's for sure. And none of us can be that expert on you. Anyway, we've got Jess. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm originally from Canada actually, but I'm based in London. I was reading and I was curious what the group thinks if this sort of thing could ever happen in the UK or anywhere else, maybe where it hasn't happened yet, but like what's happening in Punjab right now, where the government basically blocked access for all of its citizens to access the internet.
You see, I didn't know that. Did anyone else know that was happening in Punjab? Raise your hand if you knew about that. Robbo sort of knew about it. But
makes me think about mesh networks and decentralizing actual infrastructure of the internet.
Yeah, so there's a solution to that. But anyway, Jess, do you want to carry on talking about that? Was that just the point that actually controlling who gets access to the network is actually a huge form of power in itself? Or was that the point?
Well, I guess just like in this conversation of these like social media giants and the power they have, but like ultimately like the government in some nations and states like trumps that and can just come in and block access to the internet. So, it got me thinking like, could that happen in the UK? Like, do they have that power? They must, but like I actually have no idea. But I'll also drop a link for like that news story that's happening. Yeah. But basically, the Indian government are like on a manhunt for someone like a figure from the Sikh community, and they just, I think, I'm not exactly clear on why they're blocking internet. Probably they don't want news to spread or like some kind of traction to build up in the Sikh community around this person, around this figure. So they're basically blocking the internet for all of its citizens. But yeah, I just wondered like if that could ever happen here.
Could it happen here? And I mean, I think there's another implication as well. How come we don't really, I mean, Robbo vaguely knew about it. But how come we didn't really know about that? Do you want some crisps? Okay, so what do people think about this? Is it another sort of element to like what we hear about, what we actually hear about in the world?
No, but I think it's a very good point. Like, what do we hear? And I think recently what came on my news feed was the news in Uganda about people who identify gay, lesbian, queer, that there's a death penalty now on them, and that's it's just some kind of like side news. I don't know, but it's huge news. But I probably wouldn't have an active interest in what's happening in Uganda without having done a project with artists there. But what I noticed also, I think that in terms of like where we locate our money, resources, and attention is also like quite a colonial space. Because, for instance, when the war in Ukraine started, like obviously. And big up everybody who supports, makes donations to help people in Ukraine affected by the war. But there was a lot of voices kind of happening concurrently saying, but look, there's stuff happening in Yemen. There are other countries in the world affected. Obviously, there's been these really terrible earthquakes in Turkey, and there's always an ongoing fundraising campaign for some kind of a cause, and it's just interesting what kinds of causes we end up subscribing to.
Are we a little bit Eurocentric?
Yeah.
In that?
But also makes me think like perhaps, perhaps if something's happening in Europe, it's just a bit more urgent, whereas something happening in Africa is not as urgent for the Europeans. But like you pointed out, Barbara, is like, we are using the resources of all sorts of, all parts of the world to power this kind of worldview. It just makes no sense. It's just such a paradox. And a question to Robo, do you now know what decolonisation is? Just let us know.
Has it become any clearer? Anyway, that's definitely. Anyway. Oh, go on, Villani, go on, jump in.
Hey, okay, this is the last time I'm saying anything. I think I've spoken too much already. It's way more. I've used up my quota.
No, I don't think so.
But I just feel, yes, I mean, and I think I'm getting a lot of, in fact, a lot of information. It's quite stimulating conversation. But also, I think, yes, I mean, there are organizations and there are, these committees that are set up to sort of decentralize the internet and do all this great work. But if you look at the composition of this, most of these committees, they're still very much comprised of certain demographics. There's very little African people, very Chinese people, people that are not, which I'm afraid overall, we sort of like going this never-ending cycle because the same thing is still going to be repeating itself. I think, I think it's also very important even while we think about decentralizing the internet and doing all these things, that these committees that are set up, and because there are organizations working actively towards sort of engaging and sort of addressing these issues, but they're still made up of they don't compromise in terms of gender, in terms of race, of the people of the world, and this is a very serious I think point to think about.
I mean, do you think that would change the debate? Do people? I mean, you're coming in from South Africa. What are people saying about this subject in South Africa? Is it a different perspective? Because I don't know. I feel like it's a very kind of white European audience that we've got here, but are they saying something different to what people are saying in South Africa?
But definitely, that's the issue, isn't it? And I mean, we can see from the, and it's not MozFest is a very great, it's a great platform. I mean, but the fact that also like the participants and people who attend mostly will reflect this panel that we have here, and I mean, we have whole continents that are missing, people of whole continents missing in MozFest, and we're talking about things that affect them. It's a bit of it's a serious thing, and we can't just shy away from that. So, and usually, like, because I work with a lot of the, like with the institute, the work we do at the Equity Institute as well, we try whenever we have the programs that have to deal with tech and sort of like how biases that are built into it intrinsically, try to have as diverse a group when you're setting up, maybe if it's a couple of experts or a committee as possible. Because I think that it's not the best option that we have, but it's the best that we can kind of try and achieve. I mean, it's a good start to try and just see your demographics, see like if it's representative truly of as broad a base as possible. That kind of can help, because so far, I mean, mostly, well, there are some institutions that are doing a good job, but most of the time we look at these committees that are even supposedly trying to do something great, and it's like, it's a sea of, a very not very, inclusive demographic. And then of course there's huge bias built into that already from the go. So so we're not really progressing in that.
Okay, so in a way, whatever, if it's just a bunch of, like, I guess, white cis males chatting about decolonising the internet, we're not going to make that much progress, no matter how progressive their ideas are, and how radical they want to be, or how much they want to kind of just reroute things or allow people to own their own data or whatever it is.
Even with the best intentions.
I've got a question. How do you decentralize the internet? How can I participate in decentralizing the internet? Because right this moment, other than communicate with people via letters, maybe fax, I really don't know. Like what? how do I decentralize? How to decentralize?
How do we
the internet?
decentralize?
Yeah. Any tips? Just quick tips.
Come with some quick tips. Anyone? Got any? Justin had some ideas about decentralizing. Barbara?
I'm using a software that generates random searches. So then the algorithm is confused, like who I am, and cannot create a product for me. So that's one way.
Okay, so you're actually bamboozling Google.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just random. What kind of things does it search for?
What kind of software is it? Ryan is asking.
Yeah. Tell us a bit more. Yeah, maybe we're going to get a link. I don't know. Is there a question? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh. Hang on. Let me just give this a kick. Go on.
So, I'd say to Margot, the way to decentralise is to get out more and meet people.
Just meet people in real life.
In real life.
This is MozFest, Ian. We're talking, this is
I'm finding that I'm more and more distant from this conversation the longer it goes on, because some parts I don't understand. Talking about signatures on the internet, I use Facebook, but if you just look at my Facebook page, I've got a page for Trump supporters that I look at occasionally. And I'm a socialist. I've got pages for all manner of things, because if you do isolate yourself in what you said, a white male.
But I mean, have you got any pages, say, from sub-Saharan Africa or from India or
I do look at world
South
news.
Asia?
I do look at world news. I know I'm spoon-fed by that.
Yeah, but nothing coming from those countries is like, I don't know, not that I have, of course. I don't know.
It's not a race, is it? It's. I mean, I've come here tonight and speaking to people from all around the world, so that's one way of doing that. But apart from any connections I might have in that country, then I don't. But then again, I would say that we're all spoon-fed by whatever media is around anyway. And I've always said about things like Facebook is that, if you do vary your signature, as it were, then I'm not trying to confuse anyone. That's the thing.
Are you confusing the algorithms by clicking on Trump groups? Is there any point to confusing the algorithms? What's the point of that? And can an AI or whatever it is get confused? I don't know. These are all questions.
I mean, but also there's this kind of individual responsibility for decolonizing your own search or educating yourself and that kind of stuff. But to what extent do we demand our governments to do it? And if so, how to do that? Because
does anyone demand their government to do anything? I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
People say it, but personally, I've never demanded my government to do anything. I went through a phase of going through those petitions online, that were on Facebook. I've sort of given up on. They don't seem to come anymore. Those signs petition about this or that.
The more you do, the more they come.
I don't really demand. Do people demand? Should we be demanding this from our government? Has anyone demanded anything from their government recently? Because I would like to know. Yeah, Ellie.
Sorry. A pay rise. Public sector workers. You've been demanding that for a while. No one's listening. Don't go to work. They still won't pay.
Okay, so
the union's not listening. Sorry.
You demanded a bit of extra cash from the government.
I've demanded a couple of times from my government. I demanded they didn't go to war in Iraq. They didn't listen then.
Okay. So that's a question about how.
No, but seriously, about the internet. No, I don't know. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because the control of the internet is very much with those big companies. So there is no. It feels like there's no. It's not about the government, but it kind of is, isn't it?
Is it about government? Isn't it about government people? We don't know, so we need your help. There's some people that have not said anything. Like Vine 6, for example, but you've only just arrived, so that's not, that's the way it goes. I'll maybe do just a bit of a recap. This is welcome to Talkaoke. We're doing a MozFest special. We're talking about decolonising net culture. but we don't know what decolonising is, what the internet is, what culture is. However, we've still had quite an interesting discussion. We're still having quite an interesting discussion about, in a way, it's about, we don't know anything, but we're learning all the time, and this is great. We're finding out loads of stuff about decolonising our minds, I think, and that was what we started off, and I think we've gone on than that, and we've found so many different ways to explore this as well. Robo, come in.
Hello.
Hello.
We are nervous to talk to many people. We're going to say we super love the internet.
You love the internet?
Yeah. It has a huge access to information that in my head would mean that everyone could get the information.
Yeah.
I suppose our biggest concern is who kind of can access the internet, as opposed necessarily to own stuff on it.
Right. So what you're saying basically is once you've got access, it's up to you how you access it, but some people don't get that far of actually being able to access it, like the people in the Punjab, for example.
Yeah. As long as you kind of maintain a sense of being careful how you use the internet, you do keep a certain level of control. But if you don't know how to use the internet, which I'm not excellent at, like I don't know how to fact check stuff, I don't know reliable websites. I mean, my parents are in their 70s and one did computer science and the other one doesn't have like a phone. So like it is a big polarization who can and can't use the internet and how to protect and keep your data. So I guess like the main data that concerns me is medical data, I think. I think like personal stuff I can just choose to not use the internet for. But medical stuff, if they were to sell my medical data and use it in a way that would kind of look at what's likely to be a problem in the next 5 years, and the government did that to like plan for that, I'm really happy about that. But if they use my data to work out what kind of stuff they can charge me for, I'll be less happy about that.
Okay.
So, yeah. Do you want to add anything? No.
No, is that it? Has that all been said? Okay, well thanks for that. Okay, so is it more about access? Is it more about, I mean there's 2 points really, quite separate. One about who gets to just access the internet, and what kind of level of access they get, and also the question about data, medical data, which is a new subject really. Alex, you wanted to come in on this one?
Yeah, I think the point about accessing the internet is quite important, because I know people who have sort of anti-vaxxing views and they've temporarily found themselves without access to websites they want to be able to share their views on. And for them, they, like say if you spend most of your time on Twitter or Facebook and you suddenly lose that, you lose all those connections, you in effect, some wizard behind the curtain has just removed your access from the internet. And I think that is a big problem with why things like Twitter and Facebook don't feel democratic. At least in this scenario, we know who the wizard is. It's the guy in the middle of the circular table. And, someone who, if he does this conversation now, someone would say, oh, Mike, he wasn't that bad. But if you're taken off Twitter, it's really kind of distressing for people. I think that is part of the problem.
Okay, so in a way it can be quite there's no real kind of let's say legalistic process about being involved or not involved. It's more of a it's more arbitrary than that. Let's say you can be taken off of Twitter. We were actually threatened to be taken off of YouTube, not because we said anything bad, but somebody around the Talkaoke table expressed anti-vaccine views, and the algorithm actually sent us an email saying, if you carry on with these anti-vax views, you're going to be taken off of YouTube. We wrote them an email saying, we are actually trying to, thanks for your feedback, that's very important, but we're actually just trying to engage people in the discussion, no matter what their views are, and actually come to some kind of conclusion in that particular circumstance. We actually had some scientists around the table that could actually address some of the concerns they had, or some of the questions that they had. So, we felt a little bit aggrieved that we were being threatened with removal from YouTube. from that point.
But I mean, I just want to come back a little bit to this idea of like decentralizing the internet or the different media platform, social media platforms, whatever, just kind of using alternatives. But I mean, now bringing in the kind of the anti-vaxxers movement and that kind of stuff, I just think like, what are the chances? Because like, is the system so completely rigged? Because like, if you say something that is slightly off mainstream, you're just going to come across as a nut. Like, you know, and it's just like, and can you make a big difference if the whole internet, whole Twitter decides, be it through bots, through, you know, some minions kind of typing hateful comments, you know, if you are declared a complete nutcase, then can you make any impact whatsoever? Like, because if you're doing something kind of against the mainstream, that's my question. Because I think my sense is that people are just like, maybe I'm personally a bit too scared to say something or do something a bit too out there or engage too much because I don't know, because maybe it's not going to have any impact whatsoever.
Okay, is it a fear of a lack of impact or being misunderstood?
I think that kind of goes into like cancel culture and feeling like you can't, you know, being worried about saying the wrong thing, and also the idea of like people getting banned on Twitter, because I think Donald Trump was banned at one point, and then other people have been banned on Twitter, and there's this whole discussion of should people be banned if they have kind of controversial thoughts? I mean, where is the line? Is it if it's controversial, it's fine, but if it's like hate speech or inciting violence, that's where we draw the line. And who draws the line? Because you know, YouTube may say, "Oh, anti-vax, we're not on that," but maybe there's, I don't know, maybe there's YouTubers that are maybe doing racist content or you know, anti-Semitic content or different content, and maybe they're not being flagged. So I don't know where is the line, who is in charge of the line, who's in charge of cancelling people or in charge of, you know.
Who holds the cancel office to be able to cancel people? I mean, in our case with YouTube, it seemed like it wasn't even a real person. It was just, you know, some wrong words got said that got picked up by an artificial intelligence that cancelled us. Wow. Anyway, Alex.
The only, I just want to say a positive thing. You can have an impact on people on these social platforms, even if you have weird views. Because I have a weird view, and I express it every single day on a local forum.
Yeah, every day.
Basically, I promote cycling where I live.
Okay.
And I've lived here nearly 10 years, and suddenly there's a bike boom going on here.
Right.
And I used to get incredible flack, and I actually had to block people systematically, so that I wasn't just speaking to the same people.
Well, I mean, what were they saying to you?
Oh, just I don't know, just being very aggressive, and quite often what people will say is like give it a rest. And I always provide a link with how to block me on Facebook, because I think somebody mentioned that they weren't on social media because it was YouTube. I'm looking at them now, and I have a sort of weirdly similar policy. Like I don't have a smartphone because I will go on social media and I literally only discuss cycling. It's like I've just decided that's the topic I'm going to go. I just want to get like protected biking for in my town, and I don't talk about anything else. And it does work if you're willing to be that weird and that like, this is all I'm going to talk about, this is all I'm going to talk about. Like, I'm only going to view everything you discuss in this like general.
I mean, is there a decolonisation sort of discussion happening in the cycling thread? Do people talk about decolonising cycling?
Yeah, I mean there is. Like the accusation is that it's all like rich white guys that do it,
right?
And people would say that isn't what we want. We want everybody to feel comfortable doing that activity. But yeah, I mean, so like somebody mentioned Ukraine, and you know, I had a discussion where like my kids' Cubs group were raising money for Ukraine, and they were saying, well, we must, you know, pull together 30 quid to support the Ukrainian war effort. And I just pointed out to everybody else, well, like, we have these events that are miles away, so everybody has to drive to them. And I was like, between us, the parents of these cubs, we are funding the Russian war effort here.
Right,
Like,
just simply by buying the petrol.
How we're doing this thing, so that we do it in a local wood. Like, we don't need to drive to the other side of Surrey and stuff. So yeah, I think it does slowly work. You do have to be weird, and you have to decide that you're just going to be that obstinate that you won't be shut down on it.
Right, okay, so in a way it takes a bit of persistence here. It's not just going to happen overnight. That we've got a big one coming from Simon. We've just lost Simon, so it might have been a parting comment, a final thought. I just want to say to anyone, if you are thinking of leaving us, please do give us a final thought, because we find those especially useful when people give us a final thought. But what did Simon say?
Sorry, I just grabbed the sponge there of the mic. I don't know why I did this. So let's judge it.
Get that phone out.
Sorry, everybody. No, but because I want to read it off my phone. But Simon shared a link to a video, and if you're sharing a link, that's really good. And I copied them across, but I'm not watching them right now. But Simon gave us like a little, abridged version of what the video is, and it's about stealing the internet. So he says, I guess broadly, it's about how initially tech companies were largely egalitarian and believed in open source freeware development to create a better world. Then in time, those companies were brought to commandeered by private interests who encouraged a very specific way of engagement through a tiny variety of available sites and lobbied government agencies to keep it that way for, surprise, surprise, profit. Hit that. Yeah. So it's about stealing the internet. I guess maybe the sense is that it used to be a bit more kind of...
I mean, can we steal it back? Can we steal the internet back?
Ambush. Is it ambush?
Can we? Yeah. I mean, is that a way to decolonise it? Are we going to?
Oh, Ian's going to lead us to do it.
Yep.
Forgive me, in my ignorance, there's something called the dark web, isn't there? Isn't that, is that staged as well? Is that something that's, does that exist as a different dimension? Is that free? If people are putting stuff on the dark web that is so outrageous, almost as outrageous as being a cyclist, because I can't comprehend anything more than that. You know.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe we can connect these. Alex, do you ever go on the dark web to talk about cycling because you've been pushed off of? I don't know, whatever, the light web.
No, I mean, I think of Facebook. So it's going to be another very British reference, but I think of Facebook as like the Wetherspoons of the internet. And if you're not from the UK, Wetherspoons like a chain.
Good luck with trying to explain that to the international audience.
But it's like a chain of not particularly nice pubs. They're everywhere. They're a bit smelly. The music's terrible, and like for me that and not sometimes the company that's in there is not the best, and that's just like for me that's what Facebook is. It's like there's lots of kind of grumpy people there. But equally, that is the town square. So if you want to go and shout about something and you want to make change, particularly if it's in your own local community, unfortunately, you have to either go in the Wetherspoons or you have to go on Facebook, the local Facebook forum, and say, this is the way I view the world. And actually, sadly, the people you're most likely to persuade and bring round are the people who live in your own community, who will read something you wrote online, and then they'll see you on the high street and they'll remember the thing you wrote, and they might even just laugh in your face, but just the frequency of doing that is what I think actually makes a change.
Okay. I don't know if we want to go on to Wetherspoons. Can someone type into Google Translate or some other translation service what is Wetherspoons in American English?
I was just reading Justin's comments because I think Simon is still eating. I hope you're eating some kind of nice food. What part of the world is your cuisine from is my question. But you're talking about...
tomorrow's gig.
California ideology and a concept of third space. A third space. I wonder, is this something spiritual? Is it something church related? What is it?
No, it's more like, okay, we have our home space and we have our workspace, but then we don't really have like a place that we go to just bump into people and create organic social connection. So that's the idea of a third space.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like
I mean, we're kind of hoping this is a kind of, I guess, not that we use the term, but it could be a third space. We're hoping there's a little bumping into going on and bumping into of ideas, and in a way we've got this topic, but it's also just about that flow of conversation and connecting with people. I mean, I find it amazing that we're connecting with people all around the world, albeit we've missed out a few continents on that one. Chris, did you want to say something?
Pick up on the point about the dark web, because I think it's interesting because I consider myself reasonably sort of literate on the internet, but actually, as I understand it, like 90% of it is the hidden web and then the dark web, but actually a lot of it is apparently healthy hidden web stuff.
Healthy hidden
web stuff. Yeah. But there's no. I've heard of like the onion route and things like you're supposed to do to get onto that, but I have no idea how you do that, and probably a lot of other people don't. But that education around how to really use the internet and like the cycling example, how to have proper parameters around managing your social media, that kind of education stuff, I think is really key.
I mean, normally when we do MozFest as a live event, and we have done that several times, you get people that know about that stuff. The onion ring, as you mentioned, the Tor browsers. But these people on this side don't. Yeah, it's something. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, is it just about us doing a bit more research into it? Was there a point over here?
Yeah, I'm just really curious if anyone knows about using different servers and if that has an impact on freedom on the internet.
Okay, well,
like not using Google, going dark web. Using different servers, the same data collection is the same. Algorithms being used. I don't know. I'm asking.
Okay, asking for a friend.
Also, just I can see that Laura's kind of made it a little bit more visually easy for people to understand what Wetherspoons is. This one probably won't.
Maybe just disappear us again, just so we can show this international audience.
The joys of the Wetherspoons.
Okay, so this, get your phone away!
But it is away!
Phone away!
Okay, it's away.
Yeah, anyway, we're going to reappear, that's our reappearing sounds.
Yeah,
there we go. Okay, so...
we've got the Wetherspoons, and you simply just don't come in for one pint. It's a mission. It's a mission. I did want to say something, but I forgot what it was.
Okay, well, we're talking about Tor browsers. We're talking about is it just down to our just use of just Google Chrome or whatever? Hopefully, some people are using Firefox around the table. But is it down to us just being a bit more knowledgeable about this stuff? That's what we were saying.
Simon on maybe it's a different Simon, maybe it's the same. I don't know. But he's saying I tried to use DuckDuckGo as a protest against Google, but it was so bad I gave up. Dark web has its uses, but it shouldn't be necessary, really. Exclamation mark. So
Okay, DuckDuckGo maybe you could use as a search engine instead of Google, but be prepared for some quacky. I've not got duck sound effect, but anyway. Where do we want to go from here? How long have we got? We've got
12 minutes.
We've got 12 minutes, so we're kind of. I guess we need to wrap up some of these loose threads. There's some really big statements about decolonising the mind. There's this question about the third space. Have we managed to create this third space online? Can we do it? Is it about us making a bit more effort here? Are we just simply not aware of the kind of how the colonial agenda comes across because we don't talk to anyone from the global south? So these are all those big questions that haven't really been answered, but it's up to you where you take it. We've only got 12 minutes left, so if you're going to speak now or forever, hold your peace. Ian.
Decolonisation, the first word that came into my mind when I walked in was Pax Americana, in the sense that colonisation of a country that you haven't invaded. My son said semi the other day instead of semi, which really, really annoyed me.
Why?
Because it's an Americanism.
You don't like people saying semi?
Well, not necessarily just that thing, but route as opposed to route. And You know, and it just shows where did they get that. You know, she doesn't know that. He doesn't know that many Americans to influence in that way. So yeah, that's the kind of colonisation as well. The depiction of certain groups, like
but I mean, Ellie was talking about robbing and killing people and taking their land. Is it in the same sort of seriousness? Somebody saying semi instead of semi.
Absolutely.
I mean, is it also colonisation?
Absolutely. I've not been allowed to wear a kilt since the English invaded Scotland in 1643. So you know.
So you're still sore about that?
Oh, absolutely. So my whole culture, and I could talk about the working class culture that is villainized and patronised throughout the world. So there's different kind of influences there. My last thought is, where are people's boundaries in every sense of the word? I look at a lot of this thing, and we talk about influencing things, but you know, you need to be aware of how you take it rather than how they give it. You know, and I think that's really important, because, as I say, I see so much on Facebook. Have you really? You know, are you really saying that? You know, but it does me good to hear that, because I can see what's out there.
So actually, by being on Facebook and subscribing to some of these Trump-like websites, you're hearing a lot of kind of, in a way, a lot of thoughts that probably most of us are not hearing. You know, what the challenging thoughts. So there's that side of it too. Justine, sorry, do you want to say something? No? Okay, because you just had your finger like that. That's a thinking. It was just a thinking. It was a thinking pose. Margot?
No, but it's an interesting point about the language, and I think, you know, and also the fact that, you know, because English is just so, you know, this is probably just saying what everybody knows already, but it is still baffling to me that, you know, English is such a dominant language. Then, you know, it's just nice, and it's just easy to be able to communicate in the same language, kind of even standardize the accents, or, you know, but even if it's like somebody pronounces things in an American way, it's like, oh yeah, well, they, you know, the worldly person, they know what they're talking about. But I find that really infuriating, actually.
You also found that infuriating?
Yeah, like hegemony and hegemony.
Yeah.
That's one that grinds my gear.
Really? What should it be?
Hegemony.
Hegemony.
I think.
Okay.
No, it's gone.
Yeah, I don't know.
My language, basically, my point is.
I feel like Villani's getting animated, but I don't know if you want to say something, if you're just.
No, I mean, you can imagine what we have to do with the countries that we are neither in Europe or in America, because we get both types of English in South Africa, and half the time, depending on the mood, I'm either saying roots or out, or hegemony or hegemony, depends on how I feel in the day. I don't know how. If you think that, that's it.
But is it a really big issue?
It's because we're getting both worlds coming around. It's like, oh god.
So you don't know who to please, really. But is it a big issue though? How you say hegemony? Larissa, you're shaking your head.
No, I don't think so. I think communication is about, you know, people understanding one another.
Yeah.
And I think if you can understand someone, then you're good to go.
Okay, so don't worry about.
Tomato, who cares?
Who cares? Tomato, who cares?
It's not an
you know, who cares? Okay, right. So what should we be caring about if it's not how you pronounce tomato? I was about to say tomato. Tomato. Okay, I also feel like we're kind of running out of time here, so we do need to get final thoughts. And there's some people that have been incredibly listening to this the whole way through, but not said anything. It may be that you don't have the technological apparatus to say anything, but we know that you've probably got some way of typing. We know that Brink. What happened there?
We lost them. Oh, connecting.
We've been timed out.
Oh, we've been timed out.
Instead of iniquity.
No, we've lost internet.
That's like colonial overgrowth.
Yeah, we got switched off.
Let's go and storm Parliament now. They're not listening.
Are you plugged into the router?
I think it's a conspiracy person.
Did we get someone pulled the plug?
It's like a plot of Doctor Who, isn't it?
Yeah. There should be like an Ethernet cable running to that computer. Is there one? Goes into the bottom right of the right hand side. Is there an Ethernet cable there? Is it just Wi-Fi?
Yeah, it's a great engine.
I think it is.
Oh yeah.
Who did it? Who pulled it?
Who put out the plug?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, who pulled
I
it?
just like it
Yeah.
to pop out because it works. There is nothing in the phone line input output. There's nothing. There's no cables in there. At all.
There's nothing that's just like pulled out.
We're just going. We're running on Wi-Fi.
Mikey, is this what you mean? On the big.
Should be an Ethernet cable running.
Output, there's nothing. There is no cable. There's literally no cable. You need to get out.
Okay. Sorry about this, everybody.
Don't worry.
It's kind of like.
Ian suggested it's the best idea.
Yeah.
For a conversation like this.
Outputs? No, this is not the Ethernet. This is not
Like all around the world, people are going.
It's like a.
Their final thoughts.
They rated by the freezing East London.
Goes to the
no,
router.
it's bad.
That's
It
what I
just seems to be
say.
bad.
Has the internet come back?
Yeah, it's back. I think it's just a freak accident.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what you say.
No, I've got ring.
We're back online.
So Laura, you need to connect to the
Just reconnect to Zoom again.
go to the Gmail. Go to Gmail. It's going to be my
here. Is it on this one?
They're probably having a great chat there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those bloody
Alex
young
is
guys.
We are actually.
Think they know everything.
Is this it?
Are people still there?
Yeah, they're still there.
Oh, this one.
No, you've got 16, but then I suppose, yeah,
Oh,
then
still
on
up there,
something
yeah.
really pertinent's been said.
Oh my god.
Oh, they're all very angry. What are all these banners coming out?
Yeah, they're talking
Down
just
with
the same.
Talkaoke. What's going on there, right? Oh my word. I love it. Is this really happening? It'd be like, and that's what we call Talkaoke.
Recording in progress.
We're sorry.
Sorry, everybody. We're slightly
I like to
polarised.
thank people for spending their time correcting spelling on the internet. I always think that's like a really good service that they're providing.
Oh, that's my mum.
I saw Margaret. Oh, Margaret's there, but
Yeah.
Okay, we are back. Sorry about that, everybody.
Oh no, they are back. They're back in the middle.
We are back. We're back. Yeah, we are back. Hello, everyone. We're just looking for you on the other
no
machines.
sound.
Can you hear us? Hello, hello, hello.
Mikey.
Can you just unmute us then? No, okay. Hello, hello, hello. We're back.
Oh, little box.
Yep. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Sorry, we lost our internet for some reason. Almost just to kind of emphasise the fact that the internet connection is a fragile thing.
Okay, final thoughts in 3 minutes.
Yeah, we've got to do.
Disconnect those.
We've got to. I guess we've only really got time for final thoughts at this point. Sorry about that, everybody. You're probably having a lovely chat without us. Yeah. So final thoughts, everybody. Can we get a final thought from everybody? Sorry about that. Yeah.
My final thought is I really enjoyed today, and we've got somebody. I can't actually from this far.
Marianne.
Marianne? Is it
Yeah.
Marianne? Yeah, go to her.
Marianne. Marianne?
Oh, hi. It's a bit old at this point. I think it's like 8 years old, but Tabitha Rezaire's Afro Cyber Resistance video is really good, and it talks about colonization and the internet. She mentions Wiki Africa being a collective whose whole goal is about increasing content on Wikipedia about Africa. So I just wanted to share that. I'll put the link in the chat.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. We're giving you a. Okay, it is time to get final thoughts. So people, especially those that haven't said anything yet, and we'll look in the chat as well. Maybe there's some final thoughts in the chat. Yes, Jessica, have you got a final thought there?
Yeah, just I think this idea of like this third space really is important. Spaces like this from the people speak that I'm really grateful for, and yeah, like I'm getting into like radio as a kind of alternate space as well.
Yes.
And I just had this statement from someone that said like, if we're all just on Instagram, like we need to do something else. There needs to be other spaces created. So that's my final thought.
Okay, but how do we migrate people from Instagram to some of these other spaces? Justin mentioned a different space as well. How do we get people off of Instagram onto our spaces?
Also, we may be cut off at any point, so it's been really great seeing everybody. I think maybe in 1 minute or less they will cut us off. So it's not the.
Okay, so we have to talk doubly fast. Anyone, quick final thoughts, please? Any other final thoughts? Falani, final thought? Quick.
Yeah. No, not that much. I love everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, final thoughts from anyone else? Final thought?
I'm going to get Tor on my phone.
Okay, you're going to get Tor on your phone?
Go around the country.
Okay. You're going on tour? On tour browser? Yeah. What is that?
Oh, no, nothing. I was just filming people on the inside.
Okay.
Amazing work, guys. Doing amazing work, really.
Thank you. Alex, do you have a final thought?
I'm going to just repeat something I said earlier. Like, don't despair, even if the Wetherspoons is a terrible pub. If that's where people are, you've got to go in and talk to them there.
I've certainly enjoyed myself in Wetherspoons.
It's like, if that's where people are, you've got to go talk to them there. Just go one person at a time and say what you're going to say.
Absolutely.
I thought the Wetherspoons was the third space. I could make it.
It is a third space. It's just a really smelly, picky one.
It's a sad third space. That's the only thing. But you can still have fun in Wetherspoons, even if it is a sad third space. Okay. Any final thoughts, Justin? Final thought? Have you got a final thought for us? You've given us a lot. Andrew, have you got a final thought for us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess I join in the conversation a little bit later on this discussion. I guess maybe we can just not use the internet anymore, like go back to pre-internet and just go out and meet people and ask questions instead of Googling. Maybe just phone up your friend and ask questions. Or
Yeah, so you think let's just throw the internet away at this point because it's not necessarily fit for purpose?
Well, yeah, I guess if we're scared of our group, if we want to actually answer, maybe the best is just asking your friends that might have the best.
Okay, what do other people think about that? Thanks for that, Andrew. Any final thoughts over here? Ellie, Justine?
I was just trying to remember a name with my sister of someone who used to run an anarchist freedom network service, a room full of pigeonholes, full of different kind of leaflets from different kind of information. So she might get a letter, requesting something about a group in Manchester. She'd run around the room, find out what was available for Manchester, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it. So it's the literal internet.
Right. Okay. Is this still running, this service, Anarchist Freedom Service?
Well, it was the Freedom Network, wasn't it?
Okay. So we could do it without the internet. It would involve a little bit of postage. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, any final thoughts, people? It looks like they're letting us carry on. We're 2 minutes past now, so maybe the panic was unnecessary. So let's just get final thoughts from people. Final thought? Ian, final thought?
Trotsky's theory of entryism is all get the good people on the internet so we can take it over and bend it to our own will.
Okay, so take over the internet, bend it to our own will. Final thought?
Thanks so much. Really enjoyed it. Love this idea of the third space and this kind of deliberative underground.
Yeah. But would it be a Wetherspoons? That's the question.
I quite like Wetherspoons, so happiest memories of being.
Yeah, it's just like Facebook. Yeah, it's a good point, Alex. We all got good memories of Wetherspoons and Facebook, so maybe we just need to take it over. Yeah.
What is my final thought? I hope everyone has a lovely evening.
Okay, we've got a bit of a I don't know. Oh, it's you and your phone again. But people on the internet, have you got a final thought for us? Have you got anything on the
No,
chat?
I was checking if Margarita was in the Wetherspoon spot, but actually she's in Duke of York, so that's another kind of colonial figure. Maybe I don't know who Duke of York is. Maybe it could be generic kind of.
Sounds quite colonial though, doesn't it? Duke of York.
Sounds like he's got the part. But yeah, any more? I mean, just recycling some subjects from before. The natural resources to power the internet, the violent act of colonization and then decolonization doesn't have to be equally as violent. We don't know. Third space, obviously, we talked about, and I don't know.
I think we've covered a lot, haven't we?
Any thoughts,
Yeah,
you, Mikey?
I'm happy. That's all. I'm happy. Just look, whenever I finish a Talkaoke, I always I'm just filled up with thoughts, and it takes me days and weeks to process all the things that people have said. I mean, I am actually listening, believe it or not, and I do think deeply about these things. But this is no exception. It's just obviously we just opened the door, and I think. Yeah, I think there's a lot of work to do with it. I think in a way, people talk a lot about decolonising their mind. That's the thing that they have got access to, and Mark Zuckerberg is not in control of. So maybe that is the starting point, and maybe we move from there outwards. I don't know, but.
Final thought from Justine?
Another final.
It was just really charming with that. I want my attention back.
You want your attention back? Okay, so that's a good point. Any final thoughts from out there on the internet land? Okay, if not, we're just going to play the theme music, and we'll just say thanks to everybody for taking part. We're going to give you. Justin, have you got a final thought?
Don't leave me hanging.
Or are you just saying
No,
goodbye?
it's just a wave.
Okay, right. I'm going to play theme music.
I'll just say follow us on social media, at the people speak or underscore the people speak.
Yeah.
Or the people speak in some kind of way, shape or form. Drop us a line, info@thepeoplespeak.org.uk about absolutely anything. We like a chat, even if you live in New York or Canada or whatever. And big up Laura on the visualizations, who has been doing a cracking job. This is all going to be an hour flicker, so watch out. And thank you MozFest for having us again. And thank you to everybody who have joined us live in studio and in different locations around the world. You're brilliant. Have a great day.